Now that All-Star Weekend is officially over, the Chicago Bulls get set to resume play, and they have many questions around their roster that they will need to answer as they finish out this season and head into the offseason. We're going to be talking about what the Chicago Bulls will need to do as far as evaluating the rest of the roster for the rest of the season. This is your host, Rico Greenhowe, and you have found yourself on another episode of Bulls Digest. And so today, we're breaking down what we expect to see from these players left to evaluate. We talked about Modest Buzelis here yesterday and what we could really expect from him down the stretch. But now, looking at some of these players that I think the Bulls are going to have to make some decisions on, which really will I think, help this team really choose a direction as far as the way that they want to shape this roster. And so before we go ahead and jump into it for today, wanted to remind you that 64.6% of you that watch the channel are not subscribed to the channel. So make sure that you go ahead and you slam dunk on that subscribe button, as it means a lot to us here at Bulls Digest as we try to reach our end of the season subscriber goal. And so with that being said, let's go ahead and start to look at the players left that definitely need to be evaluated as well as this team tries to find a direction. And so let's start around Coby White. And I think that, Coby White certainly is a player that the Bulls are going to have to take a long look at here over the last course of the season, because we know that he's shown flashes in his time here with the Chicago Bulls. And, we know that he can also be a clutch player. Unfortunately, with Coby White, look, he's had some ups and he's had some downs. We obviously see the struggles that he had going into the All-Star break. But now you have to wonder, now that they have Josh Giddey over, he's headed to a contract year here. We know he's going into restricted free agency. The Bulls have to make a decision, because at the end of the day, if you're going to pay Josh Giddey the money, you know that Coby White is going to be the next player next up to command some real money, along with Ayo Dosunmu. And we talked about the 140 rule here. And so the Bulls have a decision to make. And I think what you're evaluating here over the last course of the season is, can it realistically work with him and Josh Giddey in the backcourt? Is it a situation where it is not going to work? Do you see him as a starter? Do you see him as a bench player? Because if that is the case, then certainly you're not going to want to pay a ton of money for maybe somebody that you want coming off of your bench. And so that's why I'm saying the decisions will have to be made here with Coby White and what they're going to do with him, because you see his numbers here. Look, I think that there is no argument that there are a lot of NBA teams in the league that would certainly want the services of Coby White. I'm not in the camp of going out and trading him, but I will say this. If the Chicago Bulls are being proactive here and they're thinking, just forward thinking with what they want to do, I wonder, is there a situation where there's maybe a trade that could happen come draft night with Coby White? Is there a situation where maybe somehow the Chicago Bulls could get back in the first round in a heavily loaded draft class this year? And so that would be something that I would wonder about. Obviously, we haven't heard any noise about that, but we do know that there might have been some, teams that were interested in Coby White. And I think certainly that is a situation to really look for as the season continues. And so next up, speaking of the next guard in the backcourt, it's going to be Josh Giddey, right? Because, look, we went out, we traded away Alex Caruso. We didn't get any picks, and so we have Josh Giddey. And I will say that Josh Giddey has picked it up really, over the last course of the season here leading into the All-Star break. I think he's gotten a little bit better defensively. I think he's gotten a better feel offensively as well. But the Bulls have a decision to make, because, there were the rumors out there that said that maybe he was commanding the $30 million per. I don't know. I'm not in the front office. We don't know, but if that is the case, the Bulls have a decision to make, because that certainly means that if you're going to offer Josh Giddey this money, you feel like he's a cornerstone piece to your roster, and you feel like, you can definitely make some noise with him. And so I would just say this, the Bulls need to continue to evaluate him to make sure that that is what they want to do if they're deciding that he is going to be the lead guard that is going to lead them into the future. And you know what his strengths are, you understand his weaknesses, and you really need to go out and you have got to build accordingly. I think that that is the bottom line here in this situation, is that the Bulls need to evaluate what they have in Josh Giddey. And now from that point on, they're going to have to try to figure out what they want to do with the roster, because you see right now he's averaging 12.1 points a game. You see the rebounds, you see the assists. Like I said, he's a solid contributor across the board. It is just, that you're going to need some better defenders around him. You also know you're going to need some length. And then with the style of play as well, you're going to have to get players that, can definitely run the floor, open it up as well, and make sure that, you're not going to just kind of be playing 4-on-5 on offense there. They can knock down some shots and really, kind of space the floor accordingly. And so I think that these are things that the Bulls are going to have to evaluate moving forward with Josh Giddey and the rest of this roster. And so next up, another player that I think the Bulls are definitely going to have to look at here is going to be Ayo Dosunmu. And so, look, I think that Ayo has done a terrific job as far as coming in and starting for us again. I think that he really plays well off of the bench, and he's also played well in the starting lineup as well. And I love the fact that Ayo has really approached this thing saying that he wants to be a starter, and I do believe that he is a starter. And if you're moving on from, Coby White, then, certainly that shows that you definitely believe, I think, in Ayo maybe taking an expanded role in your starting lineup. I think that that is maybe something to monitor as well. If you are looking to move on from Coby White and then maybe you're looking to stay with Ayo, does Ayo and Josh Giddey kind of work? Because that is something that also, too, is going to really impact the way that you are shaping your team. Again, you don't want to continue to have an awkward roster construction. Like, the pieces need to make sense. And the only way to find out if those pieces make sense, then you need to really see what they can do in a given situation once they play together in extended minutes, see what they can do in different situations and things like that. I know we're talking about just over the last course of the season, what these players can do. But I think that now that you've moved on from Levine, I think you can get a good enough sample size to see what you are wanting to do with this player here. And so I would love to keep Ayo. I definitely think, again, he is a starter. I'd love to see, him and Josh Giddey, Coby White, and all these guys figure it out. But with the log jam of guards here, I think a decision is going to have to be made. So next up, looking at the next player that the Bulls definitely are going to have to definitely evaluate and take another look at here is going to be Jalen Smith. I think that Jalen Smith is a player that you absolutely have to take a look at because, look, I think the writing is on the wall for Vooch. I think that Vooch is probably out of here. I think that you're seeing that, I hate to say it, he probably is a bit checked out. And I can understand it. I mean, because I think that he's just in a situation now where he just doesn't fit with the current situation that is going on with the Bulls. And I think that now he's in a situation where he probably wants to go off, be a major contributor and still play some winning basketball. Unfortunately, it's just not going to be with the Chicago Bulls. And so that leads to Jalen Smith. Look, if you're not going to get a center back, via, a trade, or you're also, too, in a situation where you're going to go out and draft a center, I think that that center may not be necessarily ready to start. And that suggests that Jalen Smith is going to have to take an expanded role. And so what I want to see as far as an evaluation standpoint from him is he needs to play some more minutes. And I think he also needs to play a bit more with the maybe the starters projected for this upcoming season. And so that means that you need to run him out there with Josh Giddey. You need to run him out there with Coby and Ayo. Like, you need to see what he looks like with Modest. I think that you need to continue to experiment with the lineup. Jalen Smith needs to play some expanded minutes. Let's see if he can handle those minutes and see what he looks like against, different challenges on the defensive end, because we know he's not necessarily the greatest rim protector. He will block shots. And also, too, he's not the biggest center out there as well, but you need to see how exactly he responds to that and what you would need to do to possibly complement him. I think that that is the situation you look at, because I also think that that maybe shapes the way that you do draft if you are looking at a center. And so I think that is another way in which the Bulls will have to really evaluate some talent here as this season goes down the last 20 so games, and then obviously we head into the offseason here. And so anyway, it comes down to this before we jump out of here. Look, AK, Billy Donovan, these guys are going to have to make some tough decisions down the stretch. With Billy Donovan, he's going to have to make some adjustments in the lineups. And I think the bottom line is this. Look, you can still go out and try to win, and you can try to sell us this play-in situation and everything else. The bottom line is this roster is still, it's an awkward roster construction. It needs to be evaluated, and we still need to get a direction. And the only way you're going to get there is you need to see exactly what you have. And that means, too, the mess that we have right now with the players that we brought over in this Zach LaVine trade, with Herter, with Trey Jones, with Zach Collins. Look, they might have to be pushed out the way because you still need to figure out what you want to do with Dalen Terry, Julian Phillips, like those players I think that have been with you and honestly earned some minutes. You need to figure out what you want to do with those guys as well, because I don't think these players that have come over via the trade are necessarily going to be a part of your future. And so anyway, let me know in the comments what you're thinking here over the last 20-some games or so. What is the most important evaluation that needs to happen for this team in order for them to get a clear-cut direction, hopefully get this team back to being a contender again. And look, it's one thing to qualify for the playoffs, but I'm talking about contender, meaning getting back to hopefully getting out of the Eastern Conference and at least competing for championships again. I would love to see that again with this team. So anyway, let me know what you're thinking. Just want to thank everybody out there for liking, sharing, and subscribing to the channel. It means a lot to us here at Bulls Digest as we try to reach our end of the season subscriber goal. And as I always say at the end of this, look, the Bulls, seriously, it's a team that needs a direction. It's a team that has an awkward roster construction, and clearly we need to get those things together along with gather some more assets. But this is going to be critical over the last portion of the season. You have got to understand what you have before you go out, initiate trades, and also go to just pick up players in the draft. Because if you don't have just the plan and understanding of what you have, you're going to bring a player in, and it's just not going to work out because you don't even know what you have around him. And so it's just a lot of pieces that do not fit. And so anyway, let me know what you're thinking. And as I always say, go Bulls, and I will see you on the next one. All right, peace.